If we look back 5 years, consumers were beginning to be aware of the climate crisis, but it wasn't really a real thing to many of them. And that means that many of them would look for labels, would look for sustainable goods, but it wouldn't be the thing that made them decide whether to buy a product or not buy a product, unless we look at really specific product groups like organic milk and carrots and stuff. If we look at today, consumers are increasingly aware about the climate crisis. They might even feel it in their own lives. They might have extra storms, extra rainfalls, all sorts of things that affect them and make the crisis real for them. That means that they transfer that worry into how they behave when they buy things. So for many consumers, and for a growing majority of consumers, sustainability is just where we start. It's a hygiene factor. They expect companies to have control of their supply chains, to know what's in their products, to avoid hazardous chemicals, to avoid child labor, to avoid illegally sourced resources like timber, like paper. And they expect companies to know what it is that they're selling and to show them that this is a good choice. The increasing consumer awareness and demand for sustainable products means that companies are transitioning towards sustainability at a very rapid pace. Many have been looking into third-party labeling, but today that's only the starting field. Today, if you want to have points from the consumers, you need to have third-party certification of your products. But you need to also look into what am I going to do to drastically reduce my emissions? What am I going to do to give back to society? If we look 5–10 years ahead from now, consumers will be demanding more data. They will be asking for impact reporting on how companies are progressing towards a more sustainable version of themselves. They will ask for transparency into supply chains and into how companies are doing. Now that does not mean that consumers will not be able to understand that it's difficult for some companies to transition, and it does not mean that they will hold companies deeply accountable and leave them if they miss a target deadline. But they do expect progress. Companies that are not looking into sustainability and making plans for how to transition towards a more sustainable version of themselves will find themselves in a situation where they become increasingly irrelevant for consumers and will lose sales and ultimately die over time. Now, if you're an employee in a company that actually has a sustainable ambition, it may be difficult to figure out how to translate that very complex messaging into something that you can actually use towards your clients, towards your customers. My best pieces of advice would be make sure that third-party labeling and external reporting are front and center in your stores, in your main headquarters, wherever you can show consumers that you're actually making a difference and that you have third-party verification that that is true. Secondly, I would also, if I was a sales rep, look into the top 3 sustainability priorities for my company, and I would learn those by heart. Learn the headlines, learn the top-level content, and use that every time I try to enter into a sales and complete it. And lastly, of course, just be proud of being part of a company that actually takes responsibility for the future of this globe.